All right, let's go ahead and get started. Today's special guest is Dr. Turney, Turney, and she's been in education for over 25 years. She has served as a teacher, an instructional coach, principal, district leader, and now a national consultant supporting schools across the country. Her work is focused on literacy, school improvement, and helping leaders identify and implement practices that make a difference for students and their staff. Dr. Turney is also an author, a speaker, and a recent TEDx presenter whose message is grounded in real experience and practical leadership, which I absolutely love that. She's worked across classrooms, schools, and district, always with a focus on strengthening the outcomes for students. Today, she is sharing a powerful journey and story about being labeled a problem student to becoming a leader who now helps schools solve them, along with insights that will challenge and encourage the way that we lead. So, Dr. Turney, welcome to our midday mastermind session. I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for that wonderful welcome. I am glad to be here and I am excited to share with you all my journey as well as some opportunities and next steps for you to help grow in leadership. So, once again, thank you. I know this is a crazy busy time of year. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. As I shared, I saw Katie, you recently visited the area. And here in Ohio, we are in crazy test mode. And I had a lot of principals who wanted to join me today from this area, but unfortunately, crazy test mode, prom in 2 days, graduation in a few weeks, and unfortunately, it is that time of year. So I know that you took time out of your busy schedules to join me, and I am so grateful, and I will make this definitely worth your time. So I want to begin with a quick think about it. Think about one barrier you are currently facing in your role. One barrier. Now, after you've thought about that barrier, I want you to put in the chat that one barrier. And maybe you don't feel comfortable or confident in sharing the full details. Maybe it's just one word. Maybe it's literacy, and that is a barrier for you. Maybe it is uh, teacher evaluations or struggling teachers. I'll give you a second. Think about that barrier and put it in the chat for me, please. Mm. Thank you for sharing. I see a few already, and a couple of them align with one another. Teacher quality, teacher will. We're seeing that also in evaluations, outcomes, merging into one, culture and climate, cohesiveness, unity. Those are all of the pieces that go into many of our barriers. And maybe they are more in depth and greater than that, but you're just giving that general overview. And I appreciate you sharing that with me. Today, we are not going to be able to solve all of the barriers, of course, right? But what we will be able to do is reflect on these barriers and what we as leaders can do to help improve them. And knowing that it's the end of the school year, some of these barriers or challenges will become opportunities for how we begin next school year. So maybe reflecting on teacher quality. Perhaps there are some things that we as leaders can do this summer to improve that. Perhaps there are some things that we can recommend those teachers to do so that when they return back in the fall, they are more prepared and we're not running into those same issues, perhaps different issues next time, but not those same issues that we've experienced as before. So one of the things that I want to dig deeper into today, did my screen just change? Okay, I got it now. Thank you. So, I want to tell you a little bit about my story. And in Michelle's welcome, she shared that I am a most recent TEDx speaker. And my topic was from problem child to principal. And here's a little bit of my story that I'm providing as a background for us to gain insight as well as opportunities to continue to grow in our practice so that those students that you have, you will not label them. And you're always careful with what you say and how you interact with students and staff and how that can help improve your culture and climate. So for me, they called me a problem. You see that picture on the left? It was 1994. I was a senior in high school, captain of the dance team, captain of the track team, in the band, student council vice president. I sound wonderful, right? But deep down, I wasn't. I was barely passing my classes. I had a track scholarship in hand, but would I even get to use that track scholarship? Because I was one of those individuals that was listed on that unfortunate list of may not graduate. And so there I was smiling and happy, but deep down, I was a problem. And here's why: because I was very talkative. And so when we think about that now, obviously it's paid off for me. But during that time, teachers didn't see that as an opportunity to lean into maybe my curiosity or an opportunity to lean into me as a leader. They just labeled me the problem. And guess what? When we put people in labels, typically they fit into those boxes. So think about those teacher qualities. Do they have low expectations for their students? If so, that's problem number one, because we know and research has shown us that those low expectations oftentimes lead to low student engagement, low connection, low responses, and low achievement. So there I was, labeled the problem child, the talkative kid. And so I guess you're going to give me that label, then I guess I'm going to wear that label. And now I wear it as a badge of courage. But at 16, 17 years old, I wore it as the problem that I saw that I was for my teachers. And that was evident in my academics in a mighty way. I was able to graduate on time through my late mother, who's there, her prayers, her pushes, and just her wisdom that she shared with me. And I was very fortunate to go on to Bowling Green State University on a track scholarship. I received my bachelor's in secondary education communications after 4 years. And then from there, I went on to begin teaching. I then got my master's. I then became an assistant principal. And then I moved on to become a building principal of two buildings where I was the first Black principal in those buildings. And I also received my doctorate from Capella University. So I share that to show that in that moment, in 1994, I did not become what they thought or who they thought I would become. I believed in myself, and as you can see, I became something and someone so much greater. What we know from this is that beliefs and actions lead to those results. So I had to believe in myself. My mom believed in me. And then we put actions into place. And reflecting back on that, we didn't know that that's what we were doing. But now, as an educator, I know exactly what was happening. I know exactly what we were doing. And I later used that on some of the same students who were labeled problem children. I led them and teachers as that former problem child. And from that, I had amazing opportunities and experiences and connections with those students because that led to results. Remember, one thing that I shared with you is low expectations, whether it's from teachers or leaders, or even unfortunately parents, can oftentimes lead to low academic achievement as well as results. So, the power of reflection is very simple. I wasn't the problem. I noticed that the label was really the problem. And so I worked to overcome that label. And so in today's brief session, we're going to dig into that power of reflection where you are reflecting on your own practice. You're also maybe reflecting on some of those teachers that are struggling in your building, and you are mentally, as well as I see some of you taking notes, you are coming up with strategies and ways to help overcome. So I shared with you that I was the first Black principal of two buildings. And so this was my first one, Fairfield Middle School. I always jokingly share I'm not hard to find for a couple of reasons, but this experience really gave me that awakening that, yes, I can do this, but I'm here and I'm ready to do this. And I'm ready to take this staff on this journey of cultural competence, of shifting the climate, making our environment fun and safe and friendly for everyone. I also share with you, with many people, the story of Fairfield Middle School, 1,700 seventh and eighth graders. And I often laugh when I say it because that was the largest middle school in the state of Ohio at the time. It is no longer one middle school. They've realized that that's way too many middle schoolers in one building, and it is now two middle schools. But again, the fun, the journey, the excitement, and the experience all wrapped into this picture. And as I said, I'm not hard to find in this picture. I've always been the loud mouth, the big mouth, and in some regards, the life of the party. This is my second principalship. I was principal at Colerain High School. This was our amazingly fun night of graduation, and this is only a portion of my staff. But just as I shared with you in the previous picture, I'm not difficult to find for a variety of reasons. But I was blessed to have that opportunity because, again, I was able to take my staff on a journey. We recognized learning gaps, we recognized shifting demographics in our student population. We recognize the unfortunate and strong mandates that were coming from the state of Ohio. And we knew that we could not use shifting demographics or students in poverty or students on an IEP as our crutch. We had to unite to make sure that we were making those positive changes. So the comments of teacher quality and teacher will, I absolutely get it. The comment of being unified and shifting that culture and climate, I get it. Wrapped up into the two staff situations that I shared with you, because at the end of the day, for me, I recognize that no one was going to look at poor teachers in my building. No one was going to look at shifting demographics or a new principal. And in both cases, replacing long term principles and that shift, as we know, that comes with getting in a new principal. No one was going to look at that. They were only going to look at outcomes, my state report card, and how I helped move that building with our graduation rate, with our reading scores, and from what the community could perceive as a high quality school with a high quality leader. So the power of reflection digs into all of these areas that I am about to share. I've already given you this glimpse. What we believe about people determines many things. So I think about my seventh grade science teacher, Mr. Todd, who told me if I could just shut up for the rest of the quarter, he would give me an A. And I ultimately earned and got that A, but it was hard. But as I think back to those days, that belief in me had a huge impact on, at that time, my belief in myself. When I earned that A, was it because I knew science? No, it was because I could shut up. And so that obviously hurt me academically, but it gave me now a view of what we believe in people and how it determines how we lead them, how we respond to them, and how they perform for you. So, as I reflected and decided to become an educator, I said, here's what I want my students and ultimately my staff as a principal to take away from me. That I was leading them because I believed in every single one of them, even the ones that had low teacher quality, low will, low skill, even. I still believed that together we could get to where we were trying to go. That helped me lead my staff and, even as a teacher, my students. And I always think about when other teachers would come to me and say, well, he doesn't act like that in my class. He's a wonderful in your class. He does a great job. Well, they were performing for me. Why? Because my belief in them was very different than that teacher's belief in them.
Mm.
Same thing with principals. I would get in the lemon teacher from the school down the street, and I said, okay, we all know how that goes with the union. They got to stay in the district. So it's like, ooh, let's just move them to another building. For me, it was like game on. I'm about to show that other building how I could take this teacher and make them into someone great. And again, that was my leadership, my response to them, and getting them to buy into me and perform for me. And I knew that that performance for me was really for the students. And I knew that that was going to have a huge impact on outcomes. So here's my question for you today. How can I break barriers? How can you break those barriers? I'm going to break this down in a couple of ways. The notes will be provided for you, but feel free as I'm talking to provide your own reflections on what I am sharing. The first thing that you can do, pretty much the most important thing and the starter, is to have a belief audit. Reflect to yourself, what do I really believe? And so I think about these students, the teachers that I got, and I said to myself, what do I believe about them? Well, I do believe that they can learn. I do believe that if I lead them and teach them in the right way, that they will rise to me. They will perform for me. So that belief audit is a great place to start. The second part is that awareness. How do my actions reflect that belief? So, when I had a new staff member or transfer staff that I knew, hey, this one's a lemon, I had to shift my actions to show them that I believed in them. What did that look like? That looked like me being in their room enough to provide coaching, but not living in their room as intimidation or even as this punitive approach of, hey, I know why you landed here. And I can tell you, there would be days I would pass these classrooms or pass these students, or even when the students were in my classroom, I would want to say something in that moment, but I had to take a step back and say, Do my actions reflect that I truly believe in this staff member or student? So when I would see that late staff member coming in, I knew that they knew that I was watching them. But instead of that death stare that I sometimes love to give, I would instead say, "Oh, good morning. Hope you have a great day." And in my mind, I'm thinking, they are late again. But I was also thinking that my actions are reflecting that belief, and that shift can come from that to say, you know what? She really could have been in my grill in that moment, because that was my second late out of 3 times this week, but instead she was pleasant. And so the next move for me will be, hey, how can I help you? As opposed to, well, I saw that you were late 37 times in your last building and you're doing it again. Now it's, what can I do to help and support? So that awareness to our actions is very critical. Same thing with building those relationships. Do people feel seen and valued? One of the things for me is that I did want to be seen. And maybe, just maybe, that's why I had so many issues in school. I wanted to be seen and valued. Because of that, I've worked to make sure that I see and value other people. It's that simple concept of treat others as you want to be treated. Responsibility. Are you owning those outcomes? And reflect on teacher effectiveness, student outcomes, the culture and climate in your building. And I get it, many of those things as leaders we inherit, right? And in the first year, we're just hanging on to carry forth what we've inherited. But as we start to move into our journey as a teacher and a leader, now we have to start owning those outcomes and taking responsibility. So it's no longer the culture and climate in my building is crummy because this is what I inherited 3 years ago. It is, we are still in transition, but here are the things that I've done because I've taken responsibility for shifting the culture and climate in my building, and I own that. Next, instructional intentionality. Why are we there? We are there for high quality instruction. So, are our teachers teaching with purpose? And if they're not, how can we as leaders help them? Perhaps that looks like Education 101. Hey, your lesson plans are not aligned with the standard. They are not high quality instructional strategies, materials, and resources. So, can we help them teach with a purpose and be very intentional about making sure that all of our teachers are providing high quality instruction? Next, equity lens. Who's not succeeding? Who is succeeding? And why? Let's look at those bottom groups and say, where is the gap? And that gap might be something they brought into the building from a previous building. But what can we do to help them succeed? Is that providing additional academic support? Is that doing some type of foundational course for them, or doing a 2-part series, or some type of revision in our master schedule that has a place for students to learn valuable, and critical learning skills and strategies to help them be successful? That equity lens is important because I mentioned the bottom, and we usually always go for the bottom. But what about the top? What about those top students? We need to look at those students as well and to say, How can we continue to support their growth without missing them because we are focused on the bottom? So, for a high school, that looks like ensuring we have high quality college credit plus courses, that we have high quality advanced placement courses, and that we are providing rigorous opportunities for those high performing students to excel in our building and have opportunities to succeed outside of our building with any post-secondary option that they choose. So remember that equity lens goes both ways with our students as well as with our teachers. Why are these teachers not performing well? What additional things do I need to provide this one teacher outside of what I provide for the whole group to help them succeed and grow?
Good.
Next, resilience. Are we building capacity in this process? I think about my role as a building principal and how many assistant principals over the years I had to hire. And so I wanted to make sure that I was building them up for a couple of reasons. Number one, because I wanted them to have that experience as an assistant principal that I had as an assistant principal, to ensure that they are prepared to become a principal if they so choose. Also, this was my opportunity to coach and train others around me to do things as I wanted them done. So when I had to delegate and shift, I was able to confidently and successfully do that. Why? Because I trained them to be just like me, right? So I trained them in many regards to replace me, but also to take their spin of bringing themselves into it. And so I joke a little bit about, I trained them to be just like me. No, I trained them, I coached them, and I provided support for them to really lean into my vision as a leader for the school so that they can continue to carry that forth. I'm happy to share that many of my assistant principals over the years are now building principals, and they are doing a fabulous job. And I don't know if they always credit me, but I credit me to say I taught them everything that they know. The next one is systems, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later, but do you have the structures to support what you are trying to do? And are we going beyond talk? I reflect on some buildings that I am working with right now, and they have amazing goals for their school. But when I ask them about the system that aligns to that goal, that's where the gap is. And so for me as a consultant, that's where I come in. I come in to help create those systems. So we're not just talking about these goals, there is an intentional system that guides and supports these goals. So now I want to give you some areas for action. The first part of our action with overcoming and breaking these barriers is shifting the language. Not, oh, they're lazy. It could be they just haven't experienced success yet. And for us powerful leaders, that is, they haven't experienced the success that I, as a leader, can provide and coach them and support them with. Or another shift the language opportunity for me, she talks too much. Instead, she might one day be an amazing speaker and leader. And so instead of looking at me in the negative, I wish some of my teachers would have looked at me in the positive. And I'm grateful that through the power of social media they get to hear and see me a lot because many of them follow me and we still have positive and strong connections. So, in that, we have to shift the language, what we say, how we reflect on it, and really going back to what do we truly believe? What do our actions show? And is our awareness to our belief in those actions aligned with shifting the language? Here are three powerful leadership moves. Number one, shifting the language. I've talked about that. The next one, that data piece and the humanity piece. We know they go together, but do we really connect with people as the same, as we connect with the data that we have? We oftentimes, as leaders, myself included, will look at the scores and say, oh, throw our hands up or say, we did it or whatever. But do we really take that time to break it down and say, our teachers did this in a positive way, or our teachers did this in a negative way? If it's negative, what can we as leaders do to help shift it to positive? And then finally, those systems, and that they are consistently implemented. Not, we have a system to track student behavior or student discipline or chronic absenteeism. Do you consistently live in that system? And I credit the growth of the graduation rate at Colerain High School when I was there with that system and that consistency, because we were less than 90% graduation rate, but we were over 90% attendance, daily attendance. So I saw this misalignment. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to lock in. And me locking in, I sometimes says that looks like a bulldog, right? I'm going to lock in and I'm going to live in this way of tracking this consistently. And so as a leadership team, that's exactly what we did. We consistently met about our tracking systems for ensuring our 12th grade students were going to graduate on time with all of their credits, and that they had a pathway after high school. This also included bringing in our counselors, as well as the teachers of the seniors, as well as parents. So we created this system that was multi-tiered, multi-parted, but it was consistent. It wasn't just, oh my gosh, it's April 16th, a month from graduation. Let me start figuring out how I can get these kids to graduate. No, it started in September. And the only reason it didn't start in August when the first day of school was because we didn't have any grades at that point, right? So everybody had an A. Everybody was on a clean slate. But by the second week of school, we're already looking. How many days has this senior missed? How many days or how many days and missing assignments does this student have? How many times has this student been suspended or disciplined, have an infraction? What can we do? Can we look at an alternative pathway in October? Because we see that this student is already missing so many days of school, it is going to heavily impact them. And so that graduation rate became a part of that humanity that I talked about in number two. Yes, that was a badge of courage for me as a principal. Yes, we hit our graduation target. We exceeded our target and goal. But for that student, they didn't care that it grew to 93% in 2 years. They cared because they graduated. And so that was that important piece and that connection that we were able to make with that system and that consistency. And so systems matter. We know that what gets monitored gets improved. And we've heard that over and over again, but I've seen it. I've lived it. And I know that as we are tracking attendance, if there is a proper system in place, we're going to see that improvement. And what I mean by proper system is not only are we tracking it, but we have a process in tiers for when it's not going well. We have a new pathway that we're going to take. Not we're just collecting the information. Yeah, that's collection, but is that truly tracking? We're collecting the information. We see that there is a gap or a barrier, and then we start shifting a bit to make sure that we are improving. So I'm kind of in this wrap up stage. I've done a lot of talking. I appreciate you for listening. But the question of why, right? Why all of this? Well, because the students, at the end of the day, it is truly about the students. So, this is when I was principal at Fairfield Middle School, as I shared with you, 1,700 seventh and eighth graders. So many students that we could not just have one pie the principal in the face assembly. We had to have two pie the principal in the face assemblies. And so this was just one, probably my first one. I can't even remember, but this was the day where students got to celebrate high academic success. They purchased tickets and they were able to pie the principal in the face. I love this picture because I talk so much about the power of resilience and overcoming as a person and what I try to teach with students. And so if you look closely at this picture, you'll see, of course, yes, I have on a shower cap because I didn't want to mess up my hair. I have on a garbage bag. I have on rubber gloves. But if you see, there's a little blue fist that is pointing toward a plate. And so, in my effort to be powerful and resilient, and even to kind of play a trick on the kids, I was prepared to punch all of the plates as they were coming toward me. But the students had fun, I had fun, and I recognized that value and importance of why. Another reason why, our family. This was homecoming when I was principal at Coleraine High School, the first Black principal. And here's my beautiful family with me celebrating that time. And so there's my late mother, who was my very best friend, my motivator, and always a wonderful cheerleader for me. My son is there in the middle with the glasses. He will be 23 next week. My dad is back there with the white gray hair, and he is doing very well. He just turned 83 last month. And then you see two little faces down there. That's Layla and Lennox. They are my 14-year-old twins. And then you only see the eye of my oldest daughter. She is now 24 and she is retired from the Army and lives in North Carolina. So my why in that moment was because my family was watching me. This wasn't just a victory for me, this was a victory for my family. Absent in that picture is my husband, who didn't want to participate in homecoming festivities, but he is always supportive. Another reason why, because I wanted to share this message with the world. And for this, in my role as a principal, the community, I wanted them to see that not only I, as the first Black principal and only the third female principal in the school's history, could do it, but the reason I did it, the passion behind it, the outcomes. And as you can see, there's a mighty list of the successes that I had as a building principal. So I love to share this story that yes, I was the first Black principal of two buildings, but I also love to share that I was effective, I was successful, and I left a positive legacy. And that is my goal today to share with you those barriers that can be broken and those opportunities that you can build to help shift, whether it's the culture, the climate, or teacher ineffectiveness. More of my why. This is my family now. So those are the twins there in front. Layla and Lennox, they're now 14. That is my husband's aunt, who I've now adopted as my own aunt. She's there on my right shoulder with the glasses. That's my husband behind me. One of my good friends, Shantae, on the other side of me in front of my daughter, Layla, and then my oldest son, Carson. And absent from this picture is my oldest daughter, Camille. As I said, she's retired now from the Army and is doing very well. These are all of the reasons why I do what I do and why, as you reflect on what you do. So now I want us to do a little bit of think about it, talk about it. I know I've given you a lot, but I want to open it up to some questions, some talking points, reflections, or anything that you might have for me. And if there's nothing, that's okay. If you think of something later, you know how to reach me. I'll make sure that we share my contact information at the end as well. Any questions, talking points, thoughts?
While they might be thinking of a question for you, I want to thank you for just giving us a glimpse into your personal life and taking us on your journey and reminding us of the importance of putting labels on students and just being able to look beyond that moment into their future and seeing them as an adult in society and the power that we have to speak into them and see that is as powerful, and it can be life changing for good or the bad. And so I appreciate you sharing that with us, especially some of those hurtful words that were spoken over you. And
Absolutely.
I also want to share that if raise your hand if you have seen the TED Talk that she had. I put it in the newsletter and I shared it on social media. If you haven't watched it yet, it is powerful. It was just released, and it is her story about from problem child to principal. And I think that it is something that you can share with all of your staff as a reminder, teachers as a reminder of what we say, what we speak, not just to the child, but in the teacher's lounge and in the hallway and saying, oh, you've got that student. Good luck with
Mhm.
that student as they transition from class to class. Remind them that these are many adults that we're going to have, we're going to see later in life and how we can change that trajectory for them. So take a look at her TED Talk. It'll be in my newsletter again this week, and you can also find it on my social media. But it's something you can put in your newsletter and share with your staff, or open up one of your next PLC sessions. It's how long is it, Dr.
9 minutes.
9 minutes. So it's not super long, but it does have a great message.
Thank
And then
you.
also for joining us live today, I'm going to put the link in the chat, but you're going to get a link to a free checklist on effective leadership. It's going to take you to her TPT store, but it's free to download, and you can take a look at that, leave her, positive review if you like it. But for doing that. And then I'm also going to put the PDF in a follow-up email with the session recording so that you can have that. Oh, also, this is going to be recorded and put in the library along with the slide presentation. So if there's anything that you missed taking notes on that you want to go back and revisit, it'll be in the library for you, as well as the others that couldn't make it today. So
Awesome.
do we have any questions for Dr. Turney today? You can just unmute yourself or put it in the chat if you like.
If not, that is okay. Thank you so much, Michelle, again for the opportunity. Thank you for plugging my TED Talk. as well as my TBT store, which is new, and I'm kind of testing some things out. So feel free to grab some free resources or other resources in there, and I would love a review. You can leave a live review or you can message me all the same. And before we wrap up, we talked about the free resources and services. I would love to get some feedback from you in our brief time together. Also, please leave me your email address, your contact information. I would love to keep in touch with you. And there's some other freebies that you will receive through the newsletter. And for coming here today, Michelle, I'm not sure if you announced it, so I don't want to give it away just yet. But yes, you're like, what? Which one? The 20% off.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes, yes. So I would love to continue to connect. So scan the QR code, or you can type in that bit.ly there to take a very brief 4-question survey. And otherwise, I'm done. I will stick around if anyone wants to chat. I have until about 3 o'clock Eastern time before it's time to go pick up my daughter, so I can hang around for a little while if you would like to chat. Thank you again for the wonderful opportunity, and I hope to connect with each of you in the very near future.
Thank you, Dr. Turney. And thank you, everyone, for joining today. I know your schedules are incredibly busy. Testing season is happening, like Dr. Turney mentioned earlier, but it's a wild ride from spring break to the end of the year. So hold on, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye bye.